Hi. Science, as we all know, is really busy. From observations to theories to facts, and many times all too quickly from facts to part of the scientific canon, the laws that govern the universe according to some. Now, science seems to be incredibly tolerant of anomalies that don't seem to support their theories. And it can go ahead and become a fact, even though there is anomalies, things that just don't add up. The answer is not inclusive. It doesn't cover everything. There's exceptions. And many times science is quick to tell us, well, the exception proves the rule. And mathematics, although the most exact science, in many ways, beautiful, advanced math, which I certainly don't claim to have any understanding of, can become a language, and maybe it, in fact, is the international language. There's a beauty, a symmetry, an order to math that is extraordinarily beautiful. And math has always been, by its nature, its exactness, has been less tolerant of the anomalies that the other science can live with, as long as their paradigm, as long as their schema stays intact. Recently I was watching a little special about multiverses. And something about multiverses that it's very appealing, the idea that there's many. And all that means is there are many more illusions when all is said and done. But why not? And interestingly, the multiverse theory supports the mathematics is more correct than the mathematics of a single universe. Stephen Hawking talked about, just before he passed away, he talked about multiple Big Bangs. And how can we account for multiple Big Bangs when it was a Big Bang that started our universe? But the idea of multiverses, which Hawking was entertaining, was the last. And he was doing the mathematics. Incredible. But multiverse may become the next fact, the next law. Who knows? Hopefully. Because in this quantum physics, which is really turning the hard sciences on its ear in so many ways by new observations, the observations of facts that call into question the accepted facts. And many of the scientists are quick to dismiss anything that disrupts their little sacred order that they've managed to conjure out of chaos. They hang on to it with everything they got. And so it's been in the history of science, in the history of man. They cling to facts until they have to accept that they might just be fiction. These same scientists that are overlooking phenomena that doesn't support their worldview are quick to dismiss anything that's internal, experiential, is somehow not as solid as experimental, outside observation. So they dismiss esoteric spirituality. They basically dismiss it as conjured astrology, conjured pseudoscience. And the intuition is given almost no credence. But interestingly to me, one of the greatest scientific minds ever, and my fellow Pisces, Albert Einstein, gave so much credit to his intuition, to his dreams. He actually had dreams that he wrote about. He wasn't afraid to document. His intuitions and his dreams would be the precursor to a radical big breakthrough. This man was seeing things hundreds of years before his time. Going back to multiverses for a second, one of the beautiful things, for my purposes, is that it's quite possible that there's different physical laws in different universes, different physics for a different universe of the multiverse. It could even be the exact opposite of what we experience. Now, think about that for a moment. So many truths. Each universe has its own scientific canon, its own laws, and more than likely, if there's an infinite number, as the theory goes, it's more than, it's just obvious that contradictions to what is so, what's a fact, scientific fact, in our universe would be contrary in another one. This with the addition that there might be another me, another you, multiple me's, multiple you's. Wouldn't it be interesting? And it's also believed, or strongly held, that communication between the one universe and another universe could take place, is possible. So maybe one day we could talk to our the other us, over there, up there. Wouldn't that be fun? Something to look forward to. Although, I won't hold my breath. But it's fun to entertain these things. And really, the sanctity of what science tells us is under attack and under question on almost every front. I believe that quantum physics will lead humankind to the understanding that intuitive, the internal, the spiritual, the esoteric endeavors or just as meaningful, or probably more meaningful than any observable scientific fact. Everything, all of this, is doing nothing but lending credence, support to the eternal inward journey to experience what's so. An astrologer, if I was an astrologer, if I had this skill, I would be Rob Brisney. Fantastic. Instead of paranoia, he has pronoia. He offers a intuitive balance, counterbalance to the paranoia that so many of us live with. Eternal optimist, a master of generalizations, delving into the obscure. Check him out, Rob Brisney. And the reason I'm talking to you about him right now is that, besides mentioning that if I was an astrologer, I would be him. But he talks about spirit, I'm trying to read it here. Spirit and soul. And I'm quoting him, so I'm looking here at my little notes, that so I don't butcher the quote. He says that the spirit is about things above and seeking what's most noble. And the soul is about diving in and wrestling with exactly what is. Spirit and soul. So the spirit soars. And all I wanted to do is another duality, isn't it? In a non-dual world. But it's a good one. Spirit and soul. So it made me think about all the entities that have helped me in my pursuit of abiding, awakening. Have been what I call the witness, the voice coming from up there who sees everything. I can actually see myself as we're talking right now. I can see a view from up there, and I can see looking down at me as I speak. Who is that? Well, some people might call it the conscience, but the witness is more about, for me, more about recording, observing. And I've learned a lot from witnessing the witness, watching the witness watch me, in developing my own observational skills. I'm quite a good watcher, infinitely better watcher than listener. 21 years of surviving in Taiwan with very little, if any, Chinese language skills is observation. I watch how they do it, and if I want to do it, then I know how to do it. So the watcher, and I owe that entity so much. Besides recording when I've gone off the rails, and also recording when I've done the opposite and somehow muddled through and done a reasonable job. I used to think it's like a conscience, but I hear very little judgment coming from it. It's only observing, it's weighing, it's recording. For posterity? I don't know. The Akashic records? Somebody's keeping score somewhere. Yeah. The Karma Club? I don't know. But the witness is there. Then I always have my 2 spirit guides. Milafal, the somersault turning, babbling, court gesture, non-stop talker, and my silent giant, Roger Bacon, the Franciscan monk. So here's a witness, my 2 spirit guides. And I mentioned before the blue Buddha who's come and still sits in between my heart chakra and my throat chakra, helping my words have a healing energy. So there's witness, 2 guys, the blue Buddha, and I've talked about a light body, the physical body that we're looking at, the light body, the aura. And now we have to add spirit and soul, don't we? The soul is the internal searcher. The soul is what grapples with the nitty-gritty. The soul is in the trenches, doing the hard, dirty, sometimes dirty, not very rewarding, and under-recognized and under-appreciated work. That is spiritual inquiry, or personal spiritual inquiry. I would venture to say that there is no more difficult, hazardous, complicated goal a human being could have of awakening and remembering the state we've always been in. But at the same time, having said all of that, for me personally, there was never anything that came close to the rewards, close to the satisfaction, close to the necessity of completion. And in this process, not only do you have to clean house, you have to reevaluate, you have to brutal honesty, look in the mirror and see what comes back. Brutal honesty. Recognition, acceptance of your foibles, weaknesses. Hardcore evaluation. And when you couple this with having to let everything go that you've learned is you, and let go of everything that you've learned, your brain, your ego has told you about what the world is. No wonder I felt like a naked infant on the sidewalk, abandoned, cold and dirty and hungry, and clueless about what's next, clueless about basic survival. This is the condition I found myself in when I went through my awakening experience. This is my reward. And if you want to take a walk on the wild side, if you want to experience fear, understand yourself to be a helpless infant, naked on the dirty cold sidewalk, with no safe harbor, no apparent safe harbor. No one's there for you. Teachers take you to the abyss, take you to the cliff and say, trust me, jump. And you make that leap of faith based on surrender. You jump. And there's no bottom. You're in free fall. So this is a journey, sometimes of stark horrors. The spirit, the one that soars so far above us, light years. If anything's faster than the speed of light, it's our spirit. It can go anywhere in the blink of an eye, the snap of a finger. And the soul is down in the pits doing the heavy lifting. The soul can look forward to some relief. There's an end game for the soul. When the soul merges in the ocean of all the souls, when all is one and one is all, when I am that I am, the soul has a well-deserved respite, well-earned, can rest in the bosom of the mother. Yes. Whereas the spirit gotta keep going, spiraling. It's leading the way. I don't think for a moment that when my job is done here, on this earthly plane, I have no illusion that there is not a lot more work to do. In fact, I'm quite secure in understanding that really Earth is the kindergarten of ascension. And it's from here we're mired in the morass of mud, much like the lotus flower. And the lotus flower comes from the mud, earth, escapes the karma, and opens to the air, exposing incredible beauty. And not all that long-lived, by the way. Soul sloshes. Soul pushes us not only up out of the mud, but the soul sends tendrils, roots, to get a firm basis, to reach through the mud until it can get to more substantial soil. Failing that, they develop leaves that float on the water, and the stability comes from the wide leaf. The mud's too deep. Mud's too deep to send to roots. So we adapt alternative methodologies. There's always a solution if we look carefully. Our soul has a chance to push us to the point where there's no separation and no division, and its work is done in this incarnation, in this expression of our spirit. I feel like the spirit comes down from its journey sometime and just kind of check on things. Maybe to encourage you to give up. Because essentially, it's not about trying hard, it's about giving up, surrender. I mentioned before about the infant on the sidewalk and feeling terribly alone, completely alone. But part of me knew that the spirit that was soaring, the spirit that was somewhere else, also was aware of me, my condition, my challenges. And after dealing with the initial shock, I liken it somehow to coming out of the womb. Can you imagine, especially in a modern day hospital, bright lights, rubber gloves pulling on you, twisting you, patting you. Talk about utterly alone, escaping the safety of your cocoon, thrust out in the world. I think this analogy serves quite well to understand, except the difference being when you're a baby, someone's putting you to a breast, nurturing you with mother's milk, the nectar of the gods. Whereas in my case, my awakening to abiding consciousness, awareness. I didn't see anybody offering anything. Again, my spirit was aware. But the analogy kind of serves its usefulness at that point, because what happens is that you mature, you grow much faster than the human infant. You're able to fend for yourself very, very quickly. And you don't feel abandoned for very, very long. Just the initial shock. For me, I'm 5 years into my journey after awakening, and I feel that spiritually I'm maybe 18 to 22-year-old being. University age, isn't it interesting? As a university instructor, I love this age. And now, for all intents and purposes, I'm embracing this age again. But I didn't lose. I didn't have to learn all those hard lessons again. I've learned my lessons. And now it's my turn to share a little bit, to see, in the hopes that there's something of value for you in my experiences, in my struggle. Maybe you'll see comparisons. Maybe you have alternative ways of dealing with it, of seeing it, of expressing it. I'm sure. I'm quite secure in that, knowing each of us will express what we experience in a different way. I'm also secure in knowing that one day or another, this will be so for each and every one of us. So I still have maturing to do. I still am a work in progress. And the beauty of everything, the beauty of it for me is that, talk about job security. You have job security because our job is never done. Different great beings have surrendered their own journey, Bodhidharma, Milafo, Buddhas, to stay on the earthly plane with the beautiful desire to help each and every one of us. But out of love and compassion, the sooner we get our job done, the sooner that we can contribute to the greater good, the sooner that we're no longer a detraction. These great beings that have sacrificed so much could continue doing their work, because it certainly hasn't disappeared. There's still work to do. I don't know about you, but I find security in that.